Okay, here we go, ready to write up. So we've got our highlighting, really good range of points, and we're going to use the idea of PEE, but our slightly adapted idea of PEE. So we point the reader where to look, perhaps at the very beginning of the extract, or later in the extract, or towards the end. Phrases like that that point out to the reader whereabouts we're looking. Then the first E is embedding the quote, making it part of the sentence. And then the second E is the explanation, the part where we actually answer the question, how does he present the character of Larry? So first thing that we're going to talk about, Larry LaSalle was everywhere in the centre. So we're going to point the reader where to look. And we're going to say in the first line, Cormier says that. Then we drop in the quotation. Larry LaSalle was everywhere in the centre. Okay, so that's our pointing the reader where to look. That's our embedding the quotation with a little filler like Cormier says, or the extract says, or we are told. And then you make the quote part of the sentence. After that, your kind of go-to word is which implies that Larry was very active and busy and deeply involved in the children's lives. In the centre. Okay, then we would move on. So we've answered that question. What's he like? How does Cormier present the character? He presents him as being very active and deeply involved in the children's lives. Straightforward. Let's move on. So next we're on to this idea that he's a positive influence. So Cormier develops this point in the next line. So I'm still pointing the readers where to look in the next line by saying he tamed the notorious schoolyard bully. Okay, again we've shown the reader where to look in the next line. We've made the quote part of the sentence. Now we're on to our explanation, which is another very positive aspect of Larry, that he is a good influence on young people and brings out the best in them. Then we get this slight change, so we'll put in a however, and then we want to point the readers where to look. Well, it's actually when Joey LeBlanc speaks. However, Joey LeBlanc observes that, drop in the quote, still beats up kids in the schoolyard, which it kind of undermines the previous point and actually suggests that Larry's influence is quite superficial, so quite surface. He doesn't change real behaviour, only making Butch seem like an improved character. Okay, so you'll notice like most of your work is going into the explanations. 3 so far, okay? Now, we've kind of talked about his influence on the children, so I think I'm going to miss this one out. And I'm going to talk about this one because we get this idea of him being encouraging. So Cormier quotes Larry as saying, "You're all stars," which returns to the idea of him as encouraging and motivating the children. But then we get another however. Is a sense of mystery and mystique around him, and we drop our next quote in. Let's just get this out of the way so you can see. Rumours told us that Larry LaSalle had also been a star. Now we've kind of made the point about him. How does Cormier present the character of Larry LaSalle? As having a sense of mystery and mystique. So we've kind of answered that question. We've embedded the quotation, so we could move on. So we could talk about the newspaper clipping. So pointing the reader where to look in the middle of the extract. Just reduce this down a bit so we've got a bit more room. It mentions, so that's our little filler. We want to mention the newspaper clipping. Showing him in a tuxedo. Which continues to develop the idea of Larry being kind of glamorous here and sort of quite sophisticated. But again, we've got this dark side as he discouraged questions. Yet again, however, there's a possible dark side to this, as we are told that he discouraged questions. He appears to, it's kind of like he's cultivating this aura of mystery. So cultivate an aura so we might miss that one out because I can link discouraged questions to no one dared ask him because they're both about the questions. So continuing to talk about this mystery, Cormier says that no one dared ask him, which implies that Larry is perhaps quite intimidating. and like maybe the idea that he's a bit aloof, he's a bit above the children. And these dark hints. Okay, so 2 more points, dark hints, and he was our champion. The reference towards the end to dark hints continues to make the reader feel uneasy. Towards Larry, but Cormier shows how the children were impressed and like maybe kind of in awe of Larry. Just move this up. So I'm going to use the word perhaps. Seeing him as, I call him our champion. So as if the children didn't want to consider, posh word for think about, consider any negative aspects of Larry. Okay.